This week on the podcast, I'm very excited. House music royalty, Crystal Waters.
So fast forward, I get this track from the Basin Boys, and I remember sitting there, and I had la da dee, la do da, la da dee, and that's all I had. Flashback to the lady standing in front of the hotel. So the song is all about her, and I was sitting up there, and they played Gypsy, and everybody in the club went crazy, and it was just seeing the dance battle. This was back when you just went to dance.
And we're live.
All
How are
right,
you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm really good. I was just talking to my parents and they were like, who you podcasting next? And I was like, Crystal Waters. They were like, not the Crystal Waters. I was like, yeah, the Crystal Waters. And they were like, oh my God, wow.
Oh, that's nice. I'm still here.
Still cooking.
I'm still going.
This is what I love, right? Is that we can get into the history, but your music spans over so many generations. Pretty much from the get-go of house music to a certain extent.
Yes.
How does that feel?
It's it's kind of, I don't think about how many years it's been until like I talk about it, and it's like, gosh, it's been 33 years. It's like it went by so fast. I mean, I feel very blessed because I can still remember the day I wrote Gypsy Woman, and to
Yeah,
think that it's still relevant 30, I would have never guessed. I
it's
had no clue
crazy.
what was happening.
So talk to me about that day, right? I know you've probably told the story a million times, but selfishly for myself, I don't know the story of the day. So not we all know what's happened with Gypsy Woman, but for me, it's like, what was that process of writing that for you during that day?
During that day, you want to know the story of Gypsy? I can go all the way back
All
and
the way back, all the way back.
bring you up to that day. Well, Gypsy Woman, it was actually a woman that stood out in front of a hotel where my sister worked, and I would walk past her every day. And it was the late 80s, and homelessness was really bad. I'm in Washington D.C.
Mm,
Homelessness was really bad. It was AIDS had come through, and she was standing there. She looked like she was okay. She had a full face of makeup, dressed in all black, and she was singing gospel songs. And I had this nasty attitude, like, "Oh, you need to go get a job. There's nothing wrong with you." And I would, kind of sneer at her and walk by. And then the local paper did a story about her, and it talked about how she held a job at a retail store at the makeup counter, and how suddenly she had lost the job and she had lost everything within days. And it just
mm,
it just changed my whole attitude. One of the lines, she said that she wore the makeup because she felt if she was going to ask people for money, she should be respectable and she should look clean and presentable. And it just changed my whole idea about homelessness and who was actually homeless and how they got there. So fast forward, I get this track from the Basin Boys, and this is the first house track I've ever written to, by the way.
yeah.
They sent me like three tracks, and I remember sitting there, and I had la da dee, la do da, la da dee, and that's all I had. But those syllables are so short, there's no words that can fit in there. So I was like, all right, somebody's singing this song. So flashback to the lady standing in front of the hotel. So the song is all about her. And the first line is she wakes up early every morning just to do her hair because she cares. So that's really where it came from, and it's still very meaningful to me.
Yeah, that's special. I didn't have a clue about that at all. I thought it was like something about house music and going to the club, the usual stuff. So thank you for
When it
sharing that.
first came out, everybody, they only heard La Da Dee. They didn't know, they weren't listening to the real lyrics. And they
Yeah.
actually Tony Humphries, who actually went to the label and made them put a little sticker on the second pressing that said, "She's homeless." So
Mm.
everybody know that this song was real and had some real lyrics. And people finally caught on after they had danced to it night after
Did
night that it was about a homeless woman.
did you ever speak to the homeless lady?
By the time I got back, she was gone. I was told that she kind of became famous because of the song, and people were bothering her. And I
Mm.
think the last I heard, this is years ago, that someone helped her out, and I think she moved to Florida. But that's decades ago at this point. But I never got to see her again.
Mm. Was that your first song you ever released, or was that just the first house record you ever released?
That's the first one I released it first. Before that, I was doing, I was in a group called Modern Art, and I was doing more of like a Sade thing. I wanted to be Sade.
Mm,
Look at the first Gypsy Woman in the video. I got the red lipstick and the
yeah.
ponytail. I was trying my best. So I was doing more of a jazz thing. And I had met the Basement Boys at a music conference, and I gave them my demo of my songs. And they called me that night. They said, "We love the way you write. Can you write to these type of songs?" I was like, "Sure." So I thought I was writing just for them, for their artists on their label, and they were going to release my jazz type stuff.
Mm,
So I wrote Gypsy Woman. I remember Making Happy. I can't remember the third one, but so what happened was, instead of my jazz stuff getting signed, the Gypsy Woman got signed first. And as you know, the rest is history. So once I got into the house music stuff, I was in love.
game on. Let's talk
Yeah.
about jazz. Um,
Okay.
I've done some research, and I don't usually do research on the guests here, but
Okay.
I wanted to dig a bit deeper. Ethel Waters, great aunt.
My grandfather's sister. Yes.
Did you have any relationship with her?
I did not. There's a long family story about her and my grandfather not speaking to each other, but she was always in the picture. My family told me stories. My father was a jazz musician as well.
Mm,
Everybody in my family were into music. They all sang or played instruments. But Ethel Waters was always forefront because she was really famous in the 40s. She was the first Black woman to have a number one international hit. She had a lot of firsts. So she was big on the horizon for me.
yeah, she was really big in the jazz. I didn't know you guys were related at all in
We
any
kind
way,
of
shape,
look
or form.
alike. If you look at if you can find a picture, we kind of look.
Yeah, I've got her. I've actually got her Spotify up now. But like, considering she was releasing records in the 40s, and like
Yeah.
jazz commercially isn't nowadays that like commercial, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
People are still streaming. She's still got more monthly streams than a lot of people in
Well, she also
in this
was a
game.
famous actress. She was
Oh, was
maybe
she?
one of the first Black women on TV. She had a couple big movies, Cabin in the Sky, which of course I made my children watch 10 times. And she was in the movie Pinky. So she was a movie star as well.
Wow.
So yeah.
Have you ever dipped your feet in the movie star business?
No, I took some acting classes, but no, I thought about it. I was like, I don't think that's for me.
Yeah.
I'll stick to the writing. The writing's my part.
So I guess the thing for me when I speak to people, and obviously my kind of experience in the industry, um, you release a record, it becomes one of the biggest records in house music history. How do you kind of mentally follow up with that and kind of mentally deal with that when you don't necessarily know anything else is going to be as big as that in future, right? Because it's pure luck sometimes.
Mm,
When a record goes that big, there's nothing, you can't make that happen every time. We all know
yeah,
that. You and I know that. So like,
yeah.
what's that process of after you've released that in the
Well,
90s? Like how does that kind of comprehend to you in your head?
it was a lot of pressure. It was really hard because I think I was even called a one hit wonder. Back then no one really knew what house music was, and they were like, "It's a fad. It's not going to last." So it was a lot of pressure on us to come up with something else. And I was determined. I was really determined. I would at least have two. But it was a lot of pressure. It was a lot of sweat. But eventually, as time went on, something clicked. Like, it doesn't make a difference. As long as you keep putting out, as long as you keep doing what you love, you keep writing. That's what matters. What's going to look bad is if you stop.
Yeah.
If you just give up and not even try again. I felt like that was a worse choice than to just keep trying.
Mm,
Um, so I think by the time we got to the second album, I was pretty happy with what I was doing. And I was like, after this, it's all for fun. You got it because the business will tear you down and make it not fun anymore. And all the reasons you got into writing and singing and performing kind of dims. I think we all have seen artists go through that and the troubles that causes.
Yeah.
Um, so I think that was the choice I made. Just to keep going. Just keep going. It doesn't make a difference at this point. You
Yeah,
got your
because
one hit, right? You
right.
got more than most.
Well, and I think that's the thing is like I really dislike the concept of the saying one hit wonder, right? We've all said it. We've all said it.
Mhm.
But obviously you've had more than one hit in the grand scheme of things. But I find it so disrespectful because it's generally always the people that say one hit wonders are the people that have never got into a studio themselves, that have
Mhm.
never gone through the process of writing, and also like don't understand that we're not doing this to write hits. We're doing this because we fucking love it. Excuse my
Yeah.
language, but we just we have no other thing to do in this world
Yeah,
than
and
write
I
music.
think I think people also don't understand that for the first song, you've had years to write the song with no pressure. You're doing it for love, da da da. And once you get that hit, you don't have that time. You're
No,
on the move. You don't have that focus that you had. And it's very easy not to do it again because there's so much going on in your brain now. So, that first album is usually one of the best albums artists do. For them to be able to
always.
do it three times is even incredible. So,
Well, yeah, I listened to a lot of podcasts and interviews with other artists outside of the music world, and I listen to a lot of comedy, and they say it's exactly the same in comedy where you do your first thing that makes you big, right? And then your whole life completely changes, and you can't make jokes or you can't write about what you used to write about because that's gone. You don't Your life's not that anymore, right?
yeah,
Like you're not walking past the homeless lady every day. You're
yeah,
doing completely different things. And I think that's the hard thing as artists is to how do you kind of get into the what you were before that actually
yes,
allowed you to write the music then?
yeah.
Do you have a process or do you just think it's not possible?
No, I have a prize. I do a lot of meditation, finding the joy. I pray, I ask for help. It's just getting in. Like if I'm not in that mode, I won't do it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I can just sit here. I'm in my songwriting studio now. I can just sit here and it'll just come. I'll just start writing with no real purpose and just see what comes.
Yeah.
And I just notice if I just keep writing, it'll correct itself. You just go back and that's when it becomes fun. And I try to consciously remember that this is the fun part. This
Yeah.
is, and I'm really good at this. I kind of do a lot of self coaching. So that's finding the joy of it and not think about it. Um, I think I found like I'm finishing an album now, and it's just been so much fun just to let it flow through. And I've had this process of blocking people out. My team doesn't like it, but I'm like, you can't set me up with questions and interviews and da da da. And expect, and then they ask me the next day, "Hey, did you write that song last night?" I'm like, when my brain doesn't switch back. I try to explain to them it's very hard to go from business to creative, being creative. And it's a process. So once I'm in it, don't take me out of it because then it's a whole
Mm,
another couple days before. And it's hard to explain to people that there's two different things. And I think I've been able to separate it and just be able, when this business is done, you got to leave me alone. And I think back in the day, I heard stories of labels sending artists to islands to write, so they're isolated and all that kind of stuff.
yeah.
You don't hear that today. You see about songwriter camps, but it's not.
Yeah, but even now, songwriter camps are just like they're just depressing because
Yeah,
it's not actually about writing songs. It's about a
publishing.
fact. It's a factory. Exactly, it's a factory, right? Of like how many songs can we write, and then how can we pitch them out to the people, or
Yeah, in a half hour.
with yeah, and it's like that's not how good music was. I totally agree that an idea of a record doesn't like a good record shouldn't take long in the sense of like I don't want to be working on the same record trying to write a song for a month. I don't think the record's going to be good. Like the initial idea has to come quickly, but I think when everything's just like rushed and you're just not going to get anything good.
Yeah, nothing's going to come through. I've been to those camps, and it's like you don't even have time to think. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, that sounds good. Just record. It's like, well, wait a minute. Can we try a couple? I don't know. I wonder how many hit songs really come out of some of those camps.
None.
Um, so
None.
I stopped doing. I did maybe 3, and I was like, I can't. Met some great people, though. I will say that.
I think that's the thing as well, is like when I'm in the studio, if I've got a top liner coming in, or anyone, a musician, like an instrumentalist, or anyone that's kind of coming in, there's like a level of like, I want to, if I don't know them personally, I want to get to know them. I want
Mhm.
to like have like a good hour of just like chatting and like not even being in the studio.
Mhm.
And kind of, or like if it's somebody that I work with a lot of times, catching up with them, what have you been up to in the last few months? Like, I think that for me is what I get the most out of working with people in this industry, is like
Yeah.
actually the relationship. And I think if a good song comes out of that, then happy days. But if it doesn't, you then have a connection with that person, which I think
Yeah.
is just way more important in the grand
Yeah.
scheme of life.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. You gotta have that synergy when you work with people,
Yeah.
you know?
So you go from album Surprise 1991 to Storyteller 1994, and you
I
got
giggle
100.
because it was a surprise. That's why we called it surprise.
um,
Uh,
when the difference between going from album 1 to album 2, like what's that process for you?
that was a big because that album, Gypsy Woman, was a surprise hit.
Yeah.
So what they basically did was take all my demos and remix them. I mean, these are
Mm,
demo vocals, everything. I was on doing Top of the Pops, they scooped me
wow.
up.
Yeah.
So when I got back, I had an album, which I had no say in. Um,
Mm,
so for the second album, I made sure that, I was involved and I wanted everything, I wanted to really represent me on the second one.
can I go back
So
to that? Sorry to butt in.
no problem.
First album, you don't have anything to, like, you don't have any say. That's crazy to me.
Yeah. That's how I felt. And I'm listening back to the songs on the album, I'm like, God, the vocals are horrible. I mean, and some of the songs they took. Now they did a good job, but I'm just saying for an artist, if I was there, I would have said, "Can I re-sing this?"
Yeah, of
They did.
course.
The label was on their back. The label just wanted an album, so they did. They gave us money, so that's a motivator.
Yeah.
Um, and they even took some of my more jazzy Sade stuff, and they just took those and remixed them and made them dance records. So it
Mm,
was all kind of it was like a whole new song. It had songs I had never heard before. Um, so yeah, it was kind of strange. Everything was just happening really fast. So that's why on the second one I made sure that I did the songs I wanted to do, or brought in the engineers, the correct kind of engineers and stuff that come in the studio and make it sound the way I want it to sound.
yeah.
So that was very important to me. And it was also that pressure of having another hit
Yeah.
on that album too.
Which you had.
Yes, thank the Lord.
100% pure love.
Yeah.
Spent 45 weeks on Billboard Hot 100.
Yeah, it did. It did. We were sweating bullets. It took a while to get out of the gate because I think everybody was still dance music wasn't going to do much and hip hop was coming in. That was like '94. So, but it took a couple months. But once it got out of the gate, it just stayed around. And I don't know about in overseas, but still here, 100% is used in commercials. I'm in a Calvin Klein commercial, an Audi car commercial. Um, I think Haley Bieber's getting ready to use it on the car. So
No
I'm like,
way.
so the song, that's another song, at least here in the States, that just keeps on giving. So I'm very blessed.
I don't really watch TV here in the UK, so I
Yeah.
don't listen to it. But do you still own the master? Do you own the
I
master?
have 50%, yeah.
That's
So, I
pretty
mean, all
good.
the clearances come through. I'm sorry.
That's pretty good being able to own, like, from the 90s there was always horror stories, right, of ownership
Yeah.
of the masters. Um
Well, that's
so it's
my
still,
father. That's my father. Everybody over here asked me what did I learn from, my family being, musician. I said they talked about the business. That's what
yeah,
they talked about, keeping your publishing and all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what I learned. I guess I learned from their mistakes.
it's probably the best learning ever, right?
Yeah, I'm so happy and thankful
Yeah.
I listened.
Is that strange to you that 30 odd years later people are still syncing the record for adverts? People, it's still a global hit in a grand scheme of things. Like, you've got Gypsy Woman, you've got 100% Pure Love. Like, those two records are still paying bills.
Yeah, I mean, I think in a grand scheme that house music is going through this transition. At least here in America, it kind of would have the music went back underground.
Yeah.
So I know when I go to Europe, it's on the radio all the time, but here it went it went underground, and it's just had this resurgence since Drake and Beyonce, and people have found it again. And I think my song, along with a couple other people, other songs, people have found it again and found a joy again. So I'm just blessed that I got to stick around long enough to see it come back.
Yeah.
And people are realizing now. People are like, "Where you been?" I said, "Well, I'm still here." Thank God. The music went to the EDM, that like in Europe, house dance music is still a major thing. Thank God for that. That I'm still here and it's still going and it's still happening. So, um, yeah, I'm so happy to see it come back around. I will say that because, like I said, when we started, they beat us up, told it was junk, it wasn't going to be anything, and go do some real music is what I heard all the time.
Yeah.
So, so it feels really good to see it still around and still thriving.
It's pretty amazing how it kind of started where it started, like in the underground, and now how commercial it is, in a sense of, like, it's nearly every pop song has a 4/4 beat to it, even though it's not house music. Nearly every pop song is 4/4. um it's kind of crazy from where it started to where it is now, but
Yeah,
that, in the grand scheme of things, that was only 35, 40 years ago max that it
yeah,
started.
yeah. I saw something that house music is going to make 26 billion this year.
Yeah.
So we're going from like zero to, and I
Everything.
always say I should have been a DJ because the DJs, the DJs are making all the money.
You know what? You can start now. It's not hard. You can start now.
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Yeah. How do you find that? Because talking finances, obviously you're a singer songwriter, so you earn from streaming, you earn from record sales, you earn from syncs, you earn from publishing and all of that. Um, how was it back in the day? Like, when it first came out, was it more so live performances? Did you
It
do a
was
lot of
all
that?
terrestrial radio because we
Mm,
didn't have streaming, so it was treated just like a pop song would have been treated, but most of
yeah.
it was royalties and publishing. You
Yeah.
get publishing deals, admin deals.
How was Top of
So
the Pops?
I had no idea what time.
You had no
I was
idea.
like, "What?
I love
What's
that.
happening?" It was great. I think I did it like 3 or 4 times. So it was always different every time I went. Sometimes it was live, sometimes it was pre-record, you know what I mean? It
Yeah.
was, but now that I know what it was pretty major.
It was
Um,
iconic. It was like, oh, what was the dance shows in America on TV? The music dance shows.
it was the grind we had in the 90s. Before that was like American Bandstand and Soul Train, but
Soul Train. That was it.
yeah.
It was pretty much as iconic as Soul Train. Like, I remember as a kid watching it every Friday night. I think it was
Yeah.
on the weekend, or maybe Sunday night. I can't remember. But yeah, it was massive. And when it got cancelled, it was like a huge thing as well.
What year was that? Do you know? Was it in the 90s or 2000s?
When it got cancelled, it was definitely in the 2000s. When did Top of the Pops get cancelled? July 2006.
Wow.
Yeah.
It did go for a long time, though. 2006, pretty good.
Yeah. When did it start? It's 1964.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah. It was iconic. It was like,
Yeah.
but again, it was the same as like the MTV era, right? Like with music
Yeah.
videos and all of that, like that kind of stopped.
Streaming killed the video star.
Streaming killed the music star, let's be honest.
You're right. You're right.
But I guess like from being somebody that has experienced all kind of generations in the electronic music industry, what do you think the like pros and cons of like today is for artists?
The pros and cons today for recording artists. I'm still trying to figure it out. Streaming, it just seems like the people at Spotify are making all the money. So, I think the pros are that you can release your own stuff. You can be in charge. You don't need major labels anymore. Um, it's a lot more work for you, but you can do it without a major label. Back in the day, you couldn't do it without a major label.
Yeah.
So that's the pro. The cons is how to make your money
Yeah.
now. As we know, streaming is very hard. You got to be really creative to make money now and really build a good show and a good following. Hopefully, they'll keep TikTok up here, at least here in Europe, where you can build a fan base. So I think not having that promotional money behind you is a kind of a con at this point.
Yeah, it's so hard, isn't it? Even labels now don't really put the money behind the
They're
artist.
outsourcing.
Yeah.
And so even with this album I'm releasing, everybody that they let go, it's basically the same. It's the same network. So I know all the people that they just let go, and they're all starting their own little businesses. So you gotta
Yeah.
just hire that team. So yeah, the labels. I think the labels are so invested into Spotify now that they're making their money off of that, as opposed to creating careers for artists.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting how the scene has changed, and I'm honest, I would not want to be starting now. Like,
Yeah.
like I haven't been doing it as long as you, but like we're fortunate that we were in before the streaming period that
Mhm.
kind of allowed us to have more of a foundation in the industry beforehand. However, saying that, social media is extremely powerful, and you can see artists that just blow up overnight through social media.
Yeah.
It's definitely interesting. What's your thoughts on social media?
It's a powerful tool. Um, I've handed it over to someone who knows it better than me. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of thought when with the algorithms and all that stuff. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And I think if I was 20, starting out and you got that personality and you just want to be on there all day, I think it's wonderful. So I think it's a good tool to use. At this point for me, I've given it over to the experts. I do all the videos and stuff as much as I can, but it's another job. It's almost like
Yeah.
another job.
Full time, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's what you were saying earlier with the business and the writing. It kind of adds another aspect onto the business that you kind of always have to be thinking about whilst
Mm,
writing, and whilst like, oh, have we got the content for today's writing session? Have we done this? Have we done that?
mhm.
It's a lot, and hopefully it will change. Hopefully artists will be able to just be artists again at some point.
Yeah.
But who knows? So I want to talk about the new album.
Mm,
You write 1991, 1993, and then 1997 you got the Crystal Waters album. Tell me if I'm wrong, but you haven't released an album since then.
Nope.
Okay, so
It
when we're nearly 30 years of not writing an album. 25.
25. Thank you.
Yeah. 25.
Slow down, slow
Like,
down.
how, like, first of all, why? Why do you want to write an album?
Well, after the 90s, it became a singles market. It wasn't feasible for me during that time to spend a year writing an album, paying for it, recording it, and putting it out, and for it to only last a month, maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
So it was more, to me, it felt more valuable, just to do singles. And at that time, I was just trying to partner with other, the DJs had taken over, partner with other people
Yeah.
and putting music out like that. Basically, I didn't have to do the work. So, um, so I felt like a couple years ago, a friend of mine said they wanted to do an album with me. And I was talking about, I said, I think I want to do one more. I mean, house music is back, back in the scene. I said, I feel like I have some more to say. I know I'm really good at it. So I just decided I'm going to do one more album. And I say one more, and people are like, I was like, yeah, whatever. Let's start with this one. And it took me a while. I started and I wasn't feeling the sound. I wasn't getting the sound because, people, a lot of, when you're working with DJs, there's a difference between DJs and producers. When you're working with DJs, they want you to sound like they sound. And it took
Of
me a while
course.
to find someone that I didn't want to sound like the 90s, but I found someone that, that got me and got my sound and where I wanted to go with it. So it took me a minute, finally got the sound of the album that I wanted. I always think of concept albums. I don't know if people still do that anymore, but I wanted to have this sound and I wanted to still be one of those things. If you did have a vinyl that you could play it from top to bottom,
Yeah.
So where am I going with this? So I finally found most of these people that I'm working with are producers. Everyone asks me, they want me to say a big name. And I find that working with the big names kind of takes away from you. And it's just more of
Yep.
a publicity stunt. Was that, you know what I mean? As opposed to really trying to put out good music. So that's what I've been working on for this past year. And the first single is March 21st.
Nice.
And I still
By
got
the
a couple
time,
more songs to write, but I'm feeling really good about it.
do you have a date of the album when it comes out?
I'm going to say the fall. I'm not going to give it a date
Cool.
because I plan on, this is the plan that everybody's doing now, release a song every other month
Yeah.
and just keep at it and just keep releasing it. And so by the time we get to, the fall, I'll release the album
Does
and
it
hopefully
excite you?
everybody will be excited about it.
Does it excite you?
I'm excited about it. It's coming. I finally feel like I got in my groove. I really feel I love every song. I love every person I'm working with on this album. Everyone that's heard it is really excited. I did a great distribution deal. I even got marketing money. I'm like, what?
Happy days.
I was like, I said, okay, this is going to happen then. And I got a good team, so I'm really excited. Everything is in order. It's not just haphazard and
Yeah.
throw it to the wall, stick and see if it sticks type of thing.
Yeah,
So I'm
totally.
feeling really good about it.
Is there a plan to do anything live to kind of tour it or any
I tour every summer.
yeah.
I just did it. I just did it. I just did the first single at Fashion Week. I was at Fashion Week and I performed at an after party. And I think I'm going to perform it at Winter Music Conference, Miami Music Week / Alta Fest. It's all the same week at the end of the month. So yeah, I'm going to tour this summer, and I'm sure I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Do you enjoy the live aspect still?
I do. I love meeting people. I love performing. I tell everybody I love seeing the happy faces. And I'm an entertainer. My job is to entertain you. And I love doing that. And you can see the reaction, I see a lot of young people go out there now and they just wait for people to stare at them and tell them how good they look. And it's like, that's not the game. You're not going to make it too long if you keep doing that. Um, So I do. I love meeting the people, and I've networked for so long. I feel like a lot of people on the road that I know, so it's
Mm,
kind of like family at this point.
love that. What the culture of house music? You were there from the beginning. Um, how important is the culture to you and to the industry?
I think it's very important. I remember, you know, back in the beginning when I first got immersed in, when I first went to New York and started hanging out in the clubs, I was hanging out with the dancers, with drag queens. It was this whole culture of people like a family. And I've been in other cultures of, like, say, in the pop world, the R&B world, and I really feel like it's different from that. It's just everybody in the dance culture wants to help each other. They want to co-write. They want to do stuff together. Let's do it. Or other people just kind of want money and da da da. So I really feel very proud to be in the dance culture, that I'm a part of it. And even after all these years, everyone that I meet, they're very positive people, that they love music, they love what they do. Even when you took the money away from them, they're still doing it, they're still loving it, and and to see dance music go out to all these different genres, it's like 200 genres of house music now. So to see it grow and become this monster or this mammoth, I'm very happy to be a part of that and know that I was, part of it from the beginning. So I
Mm.
love seeing it.
Can you remember your first time in a club?
Yes. Well, after Gypsy Woman, I'll say I was in the clubs back in the day, way before I was probably old enough to be in the club. I remember being in a club. It wasn't called house music. It was this kind of dance music, and you would
Yeah.
only hear it late night on the radio.
Mm.
And everybody, you didn't know what it was. But I remember going to New York Sound Factory, Junior Vasquez, and everybody said you have to go and sit on the speakers. I always used to see pictures of Madonna up there on these speakers, just,
Yeah.
being really cool. So I got up on the speakers, and the speakers are huge, and every vibration of the song just kind of came up through it. And I was sitting up there and they played Gypsy, and everybody in the club went crazy. And it was just seeing the dance battle. This was back when you just went to dance. There
Yeah.
wasn't even a bar. It was baby powder on the floor. And it was just a whole scene. And I was like, oh my God. I felt like I was home. I felt like, this is where I belong. So that memory
Was
always
that in
sticks.
DC?
That was in New York.
Can you remember the venue?
It was Sound Factory, and
Sound
Junior
Factory. Okay.
Vasquez was the DJ.
Yeah.
It was a legendary club. And it had to be the club didn't start until like midnight, so it had to be 2 or 3 in the morning that I was there. So yeah, I always remember that because I was, I always wanted to go to that club because Madonna was in there,
Yeah.
and Junior Vasquez was just this legendary DJ. And
Still
like I
is.
said, the dancers took me in, and this is when they started the houses. And I always say drag queens taught me how to do my makeup, and I learned a lot about performing from watching them.
Mm.
So for me, that was I felt like it was my training ground, as you would say.
Yeah. Did
Yeah.
you were you living in DC still then when Gypsy Woman kind of got big, or did you move to New York?
I had a place in New York, and I still had my house here in Gypsy in DC. I had 2 children at the time, and I was going through a divorce, and I wasn't allowed to move.
Yeah.
Uh, but I did have an apartment in New York for like 6 years, so I spent a lot of time in New York. A lot of time.
How was New York in the early 90s then?
Oh, it was
New York's my favorite city. Like
is it?
genuinely, I love New York. I used to live
Yeah.
there, and yeah, every time I go to New York, those times when you like land somewhere and you're like, this generally feels like home to me.
You get
Like
excited. Yeah.
I
I remember
love,
that feeling. You said drive to New York and you come over the bridge and you see all the lights and the
yeah.
buildings. It was like so much excitement. Then you get stuck in traffic. But um, in the 90s, there was a club on every corner. I remember we used to do shows 3 times a night,
Wow.
easy on the weekend in New York. It was very creative. This is back when you still had the feeling from Andy Warhol and all that creativity. They used to have housing just for artists right in
Yeah.
Manhattan.
Yeah.
And it was still very creative. Because, I mean, I didn't know it at the time, but now when you go to New York, you can see that all that creativity is gone out of Manhattan. It's moved out to Brooklyn and, all that stuff. Um, but it was a good time. It was a lot of creativity, a lot of new stuff just happened everywhere you looked. I remember it very fondly. I just
What
I just remember the club on every corner.
did you have like any like favorites?
um, I accidentally got an apartment across the street from the red zone. And that
Okay.
was and it had this red light because I had just performed there. And I remember I was with my boyfriend. I was like, didn't we just? So when the red light came on, it meant the club was open. And I would go over there and I would go, not sneak in, but I wouldn't tell anybody I was there. And it would be like Todd Terry, Roger Sanchez, who else? I'm missing some other people, but it would be like DJs like that. And I think I kind of just really learned. I would just stand in the back and watch them play and listen to all the stuff. And it was really cool. I keep saying when I see Todd, I'm going to tell, I don't think they know that I used to come there and watch them and stand on the back
Really?
wall. But yeah, that was my favorite. And the Palladium was my favorite. That was a big club. And in
Yeah.
the basement, it was like a cave. It's like they left the cave, like it was like raw rock. And you walk and there'd be places to sit in there. And then you walk in another room, it'd be a lighted runway with lights. And it was just always something over the top.
Andy Warhol designed that club.
Did he really? No, what? It
Yeah.
didn't
East
make
Four
total sense.
East 14th Street.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they tore it down.
he designed that club.
It was a piece of artwork. I couldn't believe they tore it down.
Yeah, well, all of them are gone now,
Yeah,
sadly.
everything's out in Brooklyn, and I think they just changed the law because they were really enforcing that was it the cabaret license?
Yeah.
So you couldn't have a club, you couldn't dance in it. Anyway, I think they just revoked that. So
So
they're going to
crazy.
try. But it's all the Wall Street people are down in Manhattan now, so it's kind of
That's the facts, isn't it? Though is like realistically, a club doesn't make money, but apartments do, right?
yeah.
So I get it. It's always the
I
way with clubs.
Yeah, the House of Yes, which is a club in Brooklyn that has the acrobats and all that stuff.
Yeah,
They opened a version in Manhattan and they closed it 3 months later. And they said because all the Wall Street people would just come in suits and then just watch with drinks in their hand and wouldn't dance. They weren't
yeah.
involved in the music at all. And that's not what they're about at all. So they just closed it.
No, the House of Yes is a mad club. It's absolutely
Yeah,
mad, like what they get into.
it's
But
fun.
again, that's the thing, isn't it? Is like the minute you put something in Manhattan, you're kind of your market audience is very different anyway, right? Like
Yeah,
it's not how it was back in the 80s or the
no,
90s, which is a shame, really. But also is what it is. Like
yeah,
look at Brooklyn, where Output and Shemansky was, right? Like that that made Williamsburg. Like the
yeah,
Williamsburg wouldn't be Williamsburg if it wasn't for Output and Shemansky at the time. Like it was
yeah,
pretty rough then when
yeah,
Output and
yeah.
Shemansky opened, and like it's the classic. A club opens up in a non least desirable neighborhood and makes it fashionable, and then
Um,
all the
we
artists
call it
move in.
gentrified. It gets gentrified, and all the puppies move in, and
Exactly.
and
And now it's and now it's more expensive to live there than it is Manhattan. It's crazy.
yeah, exactly.
It's crazy.
Output. Oh my gosh, they had the best sound system.
They did, man. That was fucking
Oh
insane.
man,
The the what was the second room called? Oh, I forgot what the second room was, but that was fun as well. It was like almost like someone's lounge kind of. It had like a fireplace in the corner. I loved that. Loved that place. Um, album 4. Who have
yeah.
you worked with?
I have worked with. I started out working the first couple songs with DJ Spin and Tommy Davis, who were two of the original Basement Boys.
Oh,
So
was
we
DJ Spen part of the Basement Boys?
Yeah, he's the unknown one. He's
I did
the
not know
he's the
that.
fifth Beatle.
Oh, I used to love his stuff as DJ Spen.
Yeah. So, he still lives up the street from me. Um,
Is he
so I have
DC?
well, I'm in Maryland. Just, DC is the
Okay.
circle, and I'm in Maryland, and then he's in Laurel. He's in the middle of DC and Baltimore.
Okay.
So I work with them, and then I work with David Harness. Has a track. I just did a track with David Anthony. David Anthony was on the second album. He did Relax.
Yeah.
I think another song. Dave All Day. Um, I'm missing a whole bunch of people. I'm sorry.
Don't say sorry.
um, it's not a lot of name DJs. It's like I said, I wanted to work with producers. I like going back and forth and trying new stuff.
Yeah.
Um, so I just did a track where I said it now. I just did a track with Seth Troxler. I'm
Legend.
doing a track with Eden Prince.
Hmm.
Um,
What's the process? Are you in the studio with with these people, or are you working remotely?
it's kind of like this. They send the track, and depending on the track, because I can do the edits now and put it in the song format that I want to. I'll do
Yeah.
that. Then I'll record it, send it back. They like it. And then, I have my suggestions. They send it back. And then we'll get on a Zoom call and talk about it and what you think.
Mm.
And it's been really, it's better than, it's better than not talking to the people who only want me to send them vocals and not discuss anything with me. Those are the songs that I feel like they don't go anywhere. So,
Yeah.
I've kind of stopped doing that. But so that's usually the process. And then we go to mastering. But it's been a lot of fun.
Do you like to be in the room with people when you're writing? Do you prefer that?
No, it doesn't work
Really?
for me. No, I try
Really?
like the songwriter camps. I'm like, I need my space. I need my head cleared. I need to sit. Sometimes I just like to walk,
Yeah.
do a little pacing and stuff.
Yeah.
And if you got somebody yelling or just like, well, what about this? What about this? I can't, I just,
Can't focus.
I
That's
can't.
interesting. I've never heard like a singer songwriter say that. Like
Yeah. I'm
most.
open. I'm not going to say I'll never do it, but
Yeah.
I think especially since COVID, it's
Yeah.
just sitting here in this room is just the way to go.
Mm.
I love,
Being.
but then I go into a real studio and record with an engineer, which is really where I get a lot of back and forth,
Yeah.
which I love. I cannot engineer my own vocals or do that by myself.
I think
So
having a second pair of ears is always helpful when, especially on the technical side of things, right? Is
yeah.
like, yeah, yeah. No, I totally get that. Totally get that. Um, do you spend much time in Europe touring still?
I did the last couple of years. I was in Europe a lot. For some reason, Tbilisi just discovered house music. Maybe a
Where
couple of
even
years
is
ago.
that?
Huh?
Where
We're
even is that?
in the country of Georgia.
Oh wow,
Yeah,
really?
I tell people I'm going to Georgia. They say Atlanta. I said no. There's a country called Georgia. I've been there 3 times, and then they have a Batumi's is on. They have a beach.
Yeah,
It's like 2 hours away. It's on the coast. And I think, everybody's been going. Ultra Nate's been, David Morales. Oh, I did a song with David Morales. Um, I see like Spinners went. He was so scared. I was like, you're going to love it. It's beautiful there. They do have a lot of things going on now. So I think I was supposed to go this year, but they postponed it. But yeah, I do London, London. I did a tour to the Dutch countries. This year I got some offers, but I'm not getting the motivation to go. The world's a little crazy right now. I don't know if I'll be able to get back in if I leave. I think I have
yeah.
to pay now to come to the UK or something. And
I think it's yeah. It depends if you're coming on like a artist visa or a
yeah,
Yeah, they've changed that, haven't they?
Yeah. Back in the day, you used to have to buy a visa to go to UK, and then they got rid of it. So I guess that's gonna.
It's the
But
same
we'll
as
see.
same as the US for like tourists. For us, it's like we all have to pay. Like not I've got a visa, which obviously you have to pay for, but for like just anybody, it's like $20 every time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So
the
yeah,
world
we'll
is
see.
changing, right?
Quickly, very
Yeah, really
quickly.
quickly. Yeah, it's definitely different. Um, I can't wait to hear this album. I'm really excited about it. Thank you for what you've done for this industry. Like genuinely, like you've changed the
Oh,
industry in many ways, and probably uh touched more hearts than what you can ever imagine.
mm,
These songs that you've written have changed lives. So thank you so much. Like I genuinely mean that. Thanks for coming on. I've really enjoyed talking to you.
thanks for having me.
Yeah, keep doing your thing, and I can't wait to see what you do in the future.
All right, you keep it up too.
I will.
Thank
I will.
you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
All righty. Bye.
I love that. That was great. Thank you so much for everybody for listening. Please share it. Till next time.